days enjoying the sights of the magical Moselle, our scenic cruise has delivered us to beautiful Bernkastel. Murray's heading off to enjoy the town, while I'm taking on today's other scenic free choice option, a visit to the historical melting pot of Trier.
Trier is the oldest city in Germany and was once a thriving metropolis of the Roman Empire. So much so that it was known as the New Rome. These days, you won't find another city north of the Alps with such a large concentration of beautifully preserved Roman buildings.
The best place to begin exploring is at the entrance. Porta Nigra was a Roman city gate named in the Middle Ages for the blackened colour of its stone.
So Jens, the black gates here, were they actually built to defend Trier?
It was built to defend, but most important was for sure representation. So a gate always had two functions: to keep people out and to attract people.
Right.
So this gate is very, very ornate, and it has columns, it has pilasters. So that was to show people this was a very, very wealthy city, and it actually was.
Through the gates, you'll discover the core of Trier. Its buzzing medieval marketplace, surrounded by lavish half-timber houses bedazzled with all the gold trimmings. And if that pop of colour isn't enough, the Electoral Palace Gardens is for you.
These gardens are so simple but beautiful, and I love the fact that they've been kind of recreated from the design on an old copper plate that was found.
Yeah, that's true. The problem was that the gardens were gone because the place had been transformed into an exercise field.
Oh.
And we didn't know how they used to look like. And so we used that old copper plate in the 1940s to replant them.
Yeah, it's lovely. And this, who designed this? This is stunning.
Well, that is the Prince Elector's palace. So it was a prince who had the function to elect the German king. He had to show off a bit. He was the third most important prince in Germany, and of course he wanted to be number one. He had to compete with the other two.
Okay.
And therefore it always had to be state-of-the-art, which was much more ornate, much more beautiful, much more colourful.
Very show-offy.
Absolutely, yes.
Wedged oddly behind the palace is another piece of Europe's most impressive Roman history. Today, this enormous building is used as a church, but the Basilica of Constantine was once the throne hall of the Roman emperor.
So this building was erected in the early 300s. It's 1,700 years old. So people walked towards the emperor, but later on they had to leave the building backwards.
Like backwards up?
Yeah. And they had to kneel down 3 times before they left the emperor, facing the emperor all the time. So 3 times.
While Nikki's stepping back in time into the Roman era of the Moselle, I'm jumping ahead just a little bit. This is Bernkastel, said to be one of the best preserved medieval towns in Germany. Situated in the Middle Moselle, Bernkastel is celebrated for its vineyards and their magical, mysterious healing properties.
You know, in the Middle Ages and the medieval times, people used to come to Bernkastel to drink the wine to stay healthy.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. The story goes that Bernkastel II was in residence in the castle at the top of the hill in the 14th century, and he was very ill. And a vineyard who had vineyards in this area brought a barrel of wine past. Bernkastel II drank the wine. He then slept for 3 days, and when he woke up again, he was healthy.
He was cured.
He was cured. This is Bernkastel wine.
While the wealthy built their homes out of stone, the poor did their best with oak, animal dung, mud and plaster, which, albeit a little twisted, have stood the test of time. Perhaps the most photographed is the cartoon-like Spitzhausen. I bet you got a story about this place.
I do. This house is known as the Little Pointed House, quite a famous house in Bernkastel, and it was built in 1416 for 2 families to live in. Can you imagine 2 families here? And built so narrow at the base because even in those days they had to pay ground tax, so they built narrow at the base and went up again in the width. And if you look at this house, the one side is flat and the other side is hanging over because there was room.
Was that building there first?
No, this was built quite a few hundred years later, 1416. Imagine it, Joan of Arc was only 4 years old when this house was built. Columbus didn't discover America until 76 years later.